For a very long time, the galaxy lived in silence, not the peaceful kind of silence. This was the silence of fear. Across thousands of star systems, entire civilizations moved carefully, spoke quietly, and obeyed without question. No one challenged the rulers of the galaxy anymore. No one dared. The great alien empire known as the Dominion of Silence controlled everything, from trade routes to military borders, from science councils to planetary governments. The Dominion did not rule with kindness. They ruled with memory. Every species remembered what happened to those who resisted. Planets burned without warning. Fleets vanished without battles. Leaders were taken and never returned. Over time, fear became law. Fear became culture. Fear became survival. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was only a shadow of its past. Representatives gathered not to debate, but to agree. Every vote ended the same way. Every decision favored the Dominion. And yet, deep within the oldest archives of the Council, there was one subject that made even the Dominion uncomfortable. Humans. Their files were sealed. Their records were fragmented. Their name was marked with ancient warning symbols used only for extreme threats. No official history explained what happened to them. Most believed humans were extinct. Others believed they never existed at all. But the truth was far worse. Humans had not been defeated. They had disappeared. Long ago, during a war that nearly destroyed their home system, humanity made a desperate choice. Instead of fighting a battle they could not win, they fled. Millions entered cryogenic sleep aboard massive colony ships. Their plan was simple: sleep until the galaxy became safe again. That day never came. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell, and the Dominion of Silence claimed the stars. All the while, human ships drifted through the dark, frozen and forgotten, until one mistake changed everything. On the edge of known space, a Dominion exploration fleet discovered an object moving without power. It was old, older than most civilizations. Its surface was scarred by time and cosmic debris. The ship appeared dead. The Dominion commander ordered it boarded. Inside, the aliens found long halls filled with metal pods. Each pod held a creature unlike any they had seen before. Pale skin, closed eyes, still breathing, alive. The commander felt something unfamiliar tighten inside his chest. Fear. Against protocol, the ship was not destroyed. Instead, it was towed to a research station. The Dominion wanted answers. They did not realize what they had done. When the station systems reactivated the ancient ship's power core, emergency systems triggered automatically. Lights flickered on. Consoles awakened. And deep within the ship, a signal pulsed for the first time in centuries. Cryo cycle ending. Reanimation sequence initiated. Inside one pod, a human officer's eyes opened. He did not scream. He did not panic. He took a breath. Around him, other pods opened. Soldiers, engineers, scientists, civilians. Confusion spread, but training held them steady. Humans were adaptable. Humans always had been. Within hours, the Dominion realized their mistake. The humans learned quickly. They studied the station's technology. They listened to intercepted transmissions. They discovered the truth of the galaxy they had slept through. They learned about the Dominion. They learned about enslaved worlds. They learned about fear. What shocked the aliens most was the humans' reaction. There was no despair, no begging, no surrender. Instead, there was silence. Heavy, focused, dangerous. The Dominion interrogators mocked them, called them outdated, weak, a species that ran away and lost everything. Humans did not argue. They only asked questions. How many fleets? How many systems? How long? The answers made their expressions harden. Elsewhere in the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Strange reports. Lost Dominion scouts. Data errors. Communication blackouts near the Forgotten Sector. The Galactic Council noticed too. For the first time in centuries, Dominion representatives looked uneasy. Patrols were doubled. Fleets repositioned. Emergency meetings were called. Something ancient was moving again. In a sealed chamber aboard the captured human ship, a small group of humans gathered. Military leaders stood beside scientists. Civilians listened quietly. Humanity had slept through the fall of the galaxy. Now they had awakened in a universe ruled by fear. The officer who had awakened first spoke softly, but every word carried weight. "We didn't survive extinction to hide," he said. "We didn't sleep for centuries to kneel." The humans understood something the Dominion never did. Fear could rule the galaxy, but fear could also be broken. Far beyond the station, deep in space, dormant human ships began receiving the same signal. One by one, lights turned on across the darkness. Thousands of ships, millions of humans. The galaxy did not know it yet, but the age of fear was ending, and humanity was awake. The first thing humans did after waking was listen. They did not shout. They did not threaten. They did not rush into violence. Instead, they observed everything around them. The Dominion believed this silence meant weakness. They were wrong. Inside the captured research station, Dominion officers watched the humans through energy barriers. The aliens expected panic. They expected fear. What they saw instead made them uneasy. The humans worked together naturally. Soldiers protected civilians without orders. Scientists shared information freely. Engineers studied alien systems with calm focus. There was no chaos, only purpose. This behavior confused the Dominion. Most species broke when captured. Most begged. Most feared pain or death. Humans showed neither. They asked questions instead. What year is it? How large is the Dominion? How many species serve you willingly? The Dominion interrogators laughed as they answered. They enjoyed explaining their power. They described conquered worlds, enslaved species, entire civilizations forced into obedience. They believed they were crushing human hope. Instead, they were feeding human resolve. As humans learned the truth, their faces changed, not with fear, but with anger held tightly under control. They realized they had slept while the galaxy suffered, while billions lived in chains, while fear replaced freedom. This knowledge burned quietly inside them. The Dominion allowed humans limited access to data, believing it harmless. Human technology was old. Their ships were ancient. They posed no real threat, or so the Dominion believed. But humans had always been dangerous in one way. They adapted faster than anyone else. Human engineers learned alien systems within days. They did not copy them. They improved them. Human scientists found weaknesses in Dominion shields that their creators had never noticed. Human tacticians studied battle records and found patterns, predictable patterns. Fear had made the Dominion lazy. On the station, a Dominion commander watched reports with growing concern. Small systems were failing. Sensors were glitching. Drones stopped responding near the human ship. Then one patrol ship vanished. No explosion. No distress signal. Just gone. The commander blamed technical error. But inside, something cold twisted in his mind. Fear. Meanwhile, the humans prepared. They knew they were surrounded. They knew they were outnumbered. But they also knew something else. The Dominion had never fought humans before. Not really. Humanity's old war doctrine was simple. Survive first, strike second, adapt always. They modified captured tools into weapons. They turned maintenance drones into scouts. They rerouted station systems quietly, patiently. Every move was silent. In the wider galaxy, enslaved species felt strange changes. Dominion patrols arrived late. Supply ships failed to show up. Communication, delays spread. Hope, something long forgotten, began to whisper in frightened minds. The Galactic Council noticed these changes too. Emergency meetings were called. Dominion representatives dismissed concerns publicly, but privately they demanded answers. Scouts were sent. Fleets repositioned closer to the forgotten sector. They wanted to crush the problem early. They still believed humans were the problem. On the human ship, a council formed. Not politicians, leaders chosen by experience. Military officers stood beside civilians. No one claimed authority over others. Decisions were shared. Humans discussed their choices honestly. They could try to escape. They could hide again. They could wait. But waiting was what allowed the Dominion to rise. That mistake would not be repeated. A human commander looked at the star map projected before them. Thousands of systems under Dominion control. Billions living in fear. "We don't need to win today," he said calmly. "We just need to be remembered." The plan was dangerous. Small. Precise. Humans would send a message, not words, an action. The Dominion believed fear was their greatest weapon. Humans would show them something stronger. When the Dominion fleet finally arrived at the station, they expected resistance. They expected chaos. They found silence. The station's defenses powered down willingly. Docking bays opened. Dominion soldiers boarded, confident, arrogant, careless. That was their final mistake. Human forces move fast, not with brute force, but with coordination. Lights went out. Gravity shifted. Corridors sealed. Dominion soldiers were disarmed before they could fire. Within minutes, the station was under human control. The Dominion fleet outside received a single transmission. Clear, calm, human. "We are awake," the message said. "This system is free." Then the transmission ended. Across the galaxy, ancient human ships began activating fully. Engines warmed. Weapons came online. Long silent signals echoed through space. The Dominion finally understood the truth. They had not awakened a relic. They had awakened a species. And for the first time in centuries, the rulers of fear felt something they had forced on everyone else. Fear itself. The Dominion did not respond to the human message right away. Silence spread across their command networks. For an empire that ruled through fear and fast punishment, this pause was unnatural. Dominion leaders did not understand what they faced yet. They believed this was a small rebellion, a mistake that could be erased. They chose force. A full Dominion suppression fleet was assembled near the reclaimed station. Dozens of warships formed a wide battle line, their hulls glowing with weapon charge. Their commanders felt confident. Numbers had always decided battles for the Dominion. They had forgotten one thing. Humans never fought fair battles. They fought smart battles. The human ships waiting in the dark were fewer and older. Their armor was patched. Their weapons were modified beyond original design. Each ship was different, shaped by need and creativity. Human commanders studied the Dominion formation in silence. They noticed the same patterns repeated again and again. Heavy ships in the center, support vessels behind, fighters moving in strict order. Predictable. When the Dominion fleet advanced, they broadcast a demand. "Surrender immediately. You will be erased." No reply came. Instead, space itself seemed to twist. Human ships did not rush forward. They moved sideways, vanishing from sensors. Dominion scanners failed to lock targets. Confusion spread across command decks. Then the first strike happened. A Dominion battleship simply stopped moving. No explosion. No warning. Its engines died at once. Life support shut down. The ship drifted helplessly. Before Dominion commanders could react, 3 more ships suffered the same fate. Human cyber teams had found a weakness in Dominion control systems. An ancient shared protocol never updated because no one had ever challenged it. Humans turned it against them. Panic spread. Dominion ships opened fire wildly, hitting nothing but empty space. Human vessels appeared briefly, fired precise shots, then vanished again. Each attack targeted engines, power cores, and communication arrays. Humans were not destroying ships. They were disabling them. This confused the Dominion even more. Fear-based empires did not understand restraint. They did not understand mercy used as a weapon. As the battle continued, Dominion formations broke apart. Orders overlapped. Signals jammed. Commanders shouted conflicting commands. Then a human cruiser emerged directly in front of the Dominion flagship. It was smaller, older, scarred. The Dominion admiral stared at the human vessel in disbelief. He expected arrogance. He expected rage. Instead, another message came through. "You rule by fear," the human voice said calmly. We fight for choice. The human ship fired once. The Dominion flagship's shield collapsed instantly, not from raw power, but from perfect timing. A small opening exploited with terrifying precision. The flagship did not explode. It went dark. The entire Dominion fleet froze. Across nearby systems, enslaved species watched in shock as Dominion icons flickered on their displays. Ships disabled. Fleets retreating. For the first time in recorded history, the Dominion lost a battle, and the galaxy felt it. News spread faster than fear ever had. Whisper reports turned into open discussion. Some species dared to speak against Dominion rule for the first time in generations. Others watched in disbelief. Humans had done the impossible. On the human command ship, no one celebrated. They watched the battlefield carefully. Humans understood something important. This victory was a message, not an end. They recovered Dominion prisoners and treated them humanely. Medical care was given. Wounded enemies were stabilized. This behavior confused the Dominion deeply. Why help the enemy? The answer spread quietly through liberated channels. Humans don't need fear to rule. The Dominion leadership reacted with rage. Emergency orders were issued across the Empire. Entire fleets were recalled. Forbidden weapons were authorized. The rulers of fear demanded total destruction of all human forces. But fear was spreading the wrong way now. Dominion officers hesitated. Crews questioned orders. Some ships delayed deployment. The image of human mercy unsettled them more than violence ever could. Meanwhile, humans continued moving. They freed supply stations, disabled patrols, shared technology with enslaved worlds. They asked for nothing in return, only cooperation. This terrified the Dominion. Fear-based control could not survive hope. In one liberated system, an elder of an enslaved species spoke openly for the first time in his life. They fight differently, he said. They don't want our obedience. They want our freedom. That idea spread like fire. The Dominion had built its empire on silence. Humans shattered that silence with action. Deep within Dominion space, ancient defense systems powered up. The rulers prepared their final answer. They would not adapt. They would crush. And as human commanders reviewed long-range scans, they saw the truth clearly. The Dominion was gathering everything it had. The next battle would not be small. It would decide the fate of the galaxy. Human fleets turned toward the heart of enemy territory. Humanity had made its first move, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. After the first great battle, the galaxy was no longer quiet. Every star system felt the change. Trade routes shifted. Patrol schedules failed. Long silent channels filled with rumors and hope. The Dominion of Silence tried to control the story, but fear no longer moved in only one direction. Fear had begun to crack. Human fleets did not rush toward the Dominion capital. Instead, they spread outward like ripples in water. Small task groups moved into enslaved systems, not to conquer, but to disrupt control. Dominion listening posts went dark. Weapon platforms shut down without explosions. Communication relays began broadcasting strange messages. Simple human words translated into hundreds of languages. You are not alone. You have a choice. We are here. For many species, these words felt unreal. They had lived under Dominion rule for so long that freedom sounded like a lie. Some thought the humans were another kind of tyrant. Humans expected this fear. That is why they acted carefully. In each system, humans made the same choice. They protected civilian ships. They repaired damaged stations. They returned seized resources instead of claiming them. Human medics treated anyone who was injured, no matter their species. This confused the Dominion deeply. Empires were built by taking, not giving. Dominion commanders reported growing resistance among their own subject worlds. Local enforcers delayed orders. Planetary governors requested time. Some simply stopped responding. The Dominion answered with punishment. Entire cities were threatened. Worlds were placed under lockdown. Fleets were ordered to make examples. But every act of cruelty now carried a cost. Human forces arrived faster than expected, using stolen Dominion jump routes and improved navigation systems. They appeared where they were least expected. Sometimes they arrived too late to stop destruction. And when that happened, humans changed. They did not retreat. They learned. Human fleets adapted their tactics again. They began striking Dominion command ships instead of frontline vessels. They targeted fear itself, executing leaders who gave cruel orders, while sparing crews who surrendered. Dominion officers began to fear their own leaders more than the enemy. In one system, a Dominion cruiser threatened to destroy a civilian habitat unless resistance ended. Before the weapon fired, the cruiser lost power. Human boarding teams disabled it in silence. The habitat survived. The story spread everywhere. For the first time in centuries, Dominion threats stopped working. The Galactic Council called an emergency assembly. This time, it was not controlled by Dominion guards alone. Several species arrived openly protected by human ships. The chamber was filled with tension. Dominion representatives demanded action. They called humans invaders, liars, destroyers of order. Then a human envoy spoke. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He showed evidence. Images of enslaved worlds. Records of executions. Proof of dominion lies hidden for centuries. The chamber watched in stunned silence. One by one, council members realized something painful. They had helped the Dominion rule by doing nothing. That day, the Galactic Council refused a Dominion command for the first time in its history. The Dominion reacted with fury. They activated ancient defense fleets hidden near their core systems. Massive ships, untouched for centuries, powered up. Weapons capable of destroying stars were prepared. The message was clear. If the galaxy would not submit, it would burn. Human commanders saw the threat clearly. They knew they could not stop such weapons easily. Many human ships would not survive a direct assault. But humans had never relied on strength alone. They made a different choice. Humans sent a galaxy-wide broadcast. Not propaganda. Not commands. A story. They told the story of Earth. Of human wars. Of mistakes. Of near extinction. Of choosing cryo sleep instead of total destruction. Of waking to a galaxy ruled by fear. We are not perfect, the human voice said, but we choose to stand. The broadcast ended with a simple request. Stand with us. The response shocked everyone. Entire fleets of freed species moved to support human positions. Old weapons were activated. Supply lines formed. Engineers and pilots volunteered. The Dominion watched its empire weaken from within. Fear was no longer enough. In secret, Dominion leaders argued. Some demanded total destruction. Others feared rebellion inside their own ranks. Trust was gone. And that was when humans struck again, not with fleets, but with truth. They exposed the Dominion's greatest secret. The rulers themselves were terrified of their own weapons. They had never tested them fully. They ruled by threat, not certainty. Once that truth spread, fear lost its power. Human fleets regrouped near the edge of Dominion core space. Ships repaired. Crews rested. Allies gathered. Everyone knew what was coming. The final confrontation. The Dominion would fight for survival. Humans would fight for freedom. And the galaxy waited, no longer silent, no longer afraid, ready to see who would stand when fear finally failed. The final war did not begin with a single battle. It began with a decision. At the edge of Dominion core space, human fleets gathered with their allies. Ships of many shapes and sizes filled the dark. Some were old freighters turned into warships. Others were sleek vessels built with shared human technology. Crews came from dozens of species, standing side by side for the first time in history. No one spoke of victory. They spoke of ending fear. Human commanders knew the Dominion still had power. Ancient weapons waited behind heavy defenses. Massive fleets guarded the core worlds. A direct attack would be costly. So humans chose the hardest path. They went straight for the truth. Instead of attacking cities or planets, human forces targeted the Dominion's control centers. These were not just military bases. They were places where lies were created, where fear was broadcast, where history was rewritten. The first strike happened without warning. A Dominion command hub went dark. Not destroyed, exposed. Human teams released hidden records across open channels, images of executions, orders signed by rulers, proof of manipulated council votes. The galaxy watched. Dominion leaders tried to deny it. They called it fake. They demanded silence. But silence no longer obeyed them. Across Dominion space, protests erupted. Crews refused orders. Enforcers hesitated. Some ships turned away from the fight entirely. Fear was collapsing from the inside. The Dominion answered with desperation. They activated their forbidden weapon. A massive structure near the capital world powered up, drawing energy from a nearby star. The weapon was designed to erase entire systems. It was meant to remind the galaxy why fear ruled. Human sensors detected the charge instantly. There was no time for debate. A human strike group moved in, small, fast, and nearly suicidal. They did not aim to destroy the weapon. They aimed to expose it. As Dominion defenses fired wildly, human ships slipped through gaps. Several were lost. Crews did not retreat. They pushed forward, knowing what failure meant. Inside the weapon's core, human engineers discovered the truth. The weapon was unstable. It had never been used because it could not be controlled. Human forces transmitted this information immediately. Data, simulations, proof. The Dominion rulers tried to shut it down, but it was too late. Panic spread to their own command ranks. The weapon failed, not in fire, but in silence. It shut itself down. The myth of absolute power died in that moment. Seeing no other choice, the Dominion gathered their remaining fleets for one final stand above their capital world. It was not a proud formation. It was defensive, fearful. Human fleets advanced slowly. No music, no speeches, only resolve. The final battle was short and brutal. Dominion ships fought hard, but without belief. Their formations broke under pressure. Allied fleets supported humans with fierce determination. Species that had lived in chains for centuries now fought for their own future. One by one, Dominion ships surrendered or fled. The capital world was surrounded. Human commanders gave a final offer. Stand down. Face judgment. Live. The Dominion rulers refused. They attempted to flee. They failed. Human boarding teams reached the ruling chamber. A vast hall once filled with fear and obedience. Now it was empty and cold. The rulers of the Dominion stood together. No longer powerful. No longer confident. They demanded execution. Humans refused. Instead, they did something far worse for tyrants. They exposed them. The rulers were placed before a galactic tribunal. Every species was invited to watch. Every crime was read aloud. Every lie was broken down and explained. The rulers of fear had to listen as the galaxy judged them. No weapons, no threats, only truth. The verdict was simple. The Dominion was dissolved. Its rulers were imprisoned. Not erased, not hidden, but remembered as a warning. When it was over, human fleets did not claim the capital world. They did not raise flags or demand tribute. They left. Across the galaxy, systems began rebuilding. Councils were reformed. Borders were redrawn by choice, not fear. Humans helped where asked and stepped back where not. Some humans returned to their ancient home system. Others stayed among the stars, teaching, trading, exploring. In the Galactic Archive, a new era was recorded, not named after humans, not named after war. It was called the End of Fear. And whenever new civilizations asked how it happened, the answer was simple. A species woke up, refused to kneel, and chose freedom over silence. The war ended quietly. There were no galaxy-wide celebrations, no massive victory parades, no statues raised in human honor across every world. After centuries of fear, the galaxy did not know how to celebrate yet. It needed time to breathe. In the months that followed the fall of the Dominion, star systems slowly returned to life. Trade routes reopened. Civilian ships traveled without escorts for the first time in generations. Children on many worlds grew up never hearing the warning alarms that once ruled their nights. Fear did not disappear overnight, but it no longer ruled. Humans did not take control of the Galactic Council. When offered permanent seats of power, they refused. Instead, They helped rebuild the council as it was meant to be: equal voices, shared responsibility, and open records. This decision confused many species. Why not rule? They asked. You earned it. Human leaders answered simply, we've seen what fear-based power becomes. Across former Dominion worlds, humans helped remove old control systems. Surveillance networks were dismantled. Forced labor camps were opened. Families were reunited after centuries of separation. In some places, humans were welcomed as heroes. In others, they were watched with caution. Humans accepted both reactions. They understood something most species did not yet realize. True trust could not be demanded. It had to be earned. Some humans returned to their ancient home system. Earth was changed, scarred by time and neglect, but alive. Cities were rebuilt carefully. Nature reclaimed damaged land. Humanity began again, wiser and quieter. Other humans stayed among the stars. They became explorers, teachers, engineers, and traders. They shared technology, but not weapons unless asked. They listened more than they spoke. They remembered what it felt like to wake up in a galaxy shaped by fear. In the Galactic archive, historians struggled to describe humanity. They were not the strongest species. They were not the most advanced. They were not the most numerous. Yet they had changed everything. The archive finally settled on a simple description. Humans are the species that refuse to accept fear as the natural order. Generations passed. New civilizations rose. Old wounds slowly healed. Stories of the Dominion faded into history lessons. But one story was always taught carefully with respect: the story of the sleepers. Teachers spoke of a time when humans vanished, not defeated but waiting. Children learned how an entire species chose sleep over surrender, how they woke up in a galaxy that had forgotten freedom and decided to restore it. In one quiet system, far from old battlefields, a young alien asked a human traveler a question. Were you not afraid? The child asked. When you woke up and saw what the galaxy had become? The human smiled softly. Yes, he said. We were afraid. Then why did you fight? The human looked out at the stars. Because fear should never decide the future. That answer spread far beyond that system. Years later, long-range sensors detected something unusual at the edge of known space. An unknown signal. Old, familiar. Human explorers recognized it immediately. Another cryo fleet. Not human. A species that had also chosen sleep instead of extinction, long before humanity ever did. The Galactic Council debated what to do. Humans did not. They went to meet them. When the sleeping species woke, confused and afraid, they did not find an empire waiting. They found open hands, shared knowledge, and a galaxy that no longer ruled through terror. That was humanity's final victory. Not the fall of the Dominion, not the battles, not the wars, but the example they left behind. The galaxy learned that fear was not eternal, that even the strongest tyrants could fall, that silence could be broken. And in quiet moments, when stars drifted peacefully through open space, many species remembered the truth written into the archive's final line about humans. They slept through the darkest age. They woke when it mattered, and they chose to protect a galaxy that was not their own. The age of fear ended not with destruction, but with a species that woke up and said, enough.